Welcome to the Gladden Longevity Podcast with Dr. Jeffrey Gladden, where our passion is helping you become an age hacker. On this show, we want to help you optimize your life energy, longevity, health, and human performance with impactful and actionable information by answering 4 questions. How good can we be? How do we make 100 the new 30? How do we live well beyond 120? And how do we live young for a lifetime? I'm Steve Reiter and Dr. Gladden. We're back for another monthly Q&A. It is September, and it is Food Safety Education Month, Healthy Aging Month, and Self-Care Awareness Month. And so,
all right. Sounds like a good month. Good month to be alive.
Since we didn't do one last month in August, catch me up. You've been in a couple accidents in your exercise routine.
Yeah, I got beat up a little bit this summer. A few crashes here and there, some bumps and bruises, and at one point I had four injuries going on simultaneously. I was feeling a little gimpy, but some peptides and some ozone and some stem cell injections. And the next thing you know, you're kind of back on your feet. So
you're covering pretty
good.
Then.
Yeah, it's I'm not going to give up my active lifestyle. I just it's too fun. I do try to do it with as much wisdom as possible, but still you're going to get caught out. I think it's about the ability to recover and heal. I just had kind of a constellation of things happen kind of unexpectedly, as they always are. But but it's it's good to feel good again. I'll tell you the interesting thing is that when I was at my low point, there was this flicker of thing that came across my brain, this flicker of a thought that, maybe you should slow down at this point in life. Maybe this flicker of a thought came across, and I said, no. I'm 27. By gosh. And it was like a really interesting moment, because I can imagine, if you're listening to this, that you also run into these moments where it's like, well, maybe I should just slow down, or maybe I should just quit doing that or something. And I don't know how you've handled that. I don't know if you've acquiesced or not, but for me, it was like, no, this is a test. I'm 27 and I'm going to get back to it. And sure enough, now today, here I am, and I feel great. Right. And the interesting thing is, I don't think I would feel as good as I do today if I didn't have that mindset that I am 27, because I would have just said, well, okay, so then I start walking differently, and now I'm limping a little bit and this and that. And, well, I guess this is just what it is, and blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's so critical to actually never acquiesce to that stuff, because it's insidious, and it'll basically start to strangle you. It's kind of like a slow growing vine that comes up around your neck and just squeezes the life out of you. So don't acquiesce to it.
I can imagine that. You're 70 now.
No, 27. You forgot that wrong. I've done 70 laps, but I'm 27. So yeah, don't forget that.
So this month we have some articles on Food Safety Education Month. Articles like, experts want FDA to do more to ensure food safety. Consumers are wary of pesticide residue in fruits and vegetables. 5-country study finds. Food scientist debunks 5-second rule. Here's what you need to know. And then items that don't belong in a fridge. So Dr. Gladden, talk about food safety from your perspective.
Well, I think it's an interesting topic, because we measure environmental toxins here for all of our clients. And we find that a lot of people have a lot of pesticides in their system. Right. Things that are related not only to, obvious things like glyphosate on strawberries, but related to pesticides that are, in rice and grains and nuts and things like that. And then the mold that can get into stored grains and things like that. So the food supply, unfortunately, isn't very clean. And even in the organic foods, it still rains down unless you're growing it in a greenhouse, and you can still end up with pesticides. So it's a mess, quite honestly. The food supply is really a mess in this country. with the pesticides, then you've got this concept of, I've really become enamored with this concept of regenerative farming, right? Yeah. And I think ultimately what we want is clean, nutrient dense food with a wide variety of foods. That's really what we want. What we have is basically industrialized farming that destroys the soil, gives us food that looks like food but has been depleted of nutrients and is covered in pesticides. So it's really kind of a conundrum. It's difficult to get really good food. And I think, my son has gotten interested in regenerative farming. He turned his whole front yard into a small, let's call it a micro regenerative farm. And he's gotten really, really enamored with this whole concept. There's a guy named Gabe Brown out of, I think it's North Dakota, who inherited a farm. He married a girl. Her parents were farmers, and he nearly went bankrupt. I don't know, 4 or 5 years after he inherited the farm, because he had three rough years, right? When it wasn't raining, I guess they had a drought or whatever it was, and he was doing all the traditional, farming techniques, tilling the soil, using fertilizer, spraying for weeds, typical stuff. And in desperation, quite honestly, I think he didn't have the money for some of the fertilizers and pesticides and stuff. So he started this regenerative thing where the first thing he did was this no-till approach, where instead of tilling the soil, he just started drilling a hole in and putting the plants down into these holes. And from there, he learned about other techniques, and essentially over 4 or 5 years, he actually regenerated the soil on the farm because he stopped tilling it. And now he had 3 or 4 inches of really good topsoil. And he noticed that his crop density was so much better, and the nutrient density was higher when it was measured. And his farm became so profitable because of the quality of the food that he was producing, right?
Yeah.
And so all of his neighbors, some of his neighbors, it's interesting, right? People are really funny. They get married to their way of thinking. It's like, I don't know what he's doing over there, but we're fine. And but some of his other people were really interested. So they started doing some regenerative techniques also. But I guess he was the one that did kind of everything that he could think of. After he saw the light, he started doing everything he could think of. And he wrote this book called Dirt to Soil. And I think it's really a beautiful thing, because I think it's really the solution to the food problem. Is we need to go from this concept of dirt to actually building soil. We think it's about growing food. It's not about growing food. It's actually about building soil quality. When you build quality soil, basically by, mulching stuff and turning it in and all this stuff, but you're not tilling it and aerating it and all these other things, then when you build soil that's actually a rich ecosystem with all the mycelia and all the worms and all the microbes that actually feed this thing, then you can actually get some really nutrient dense plants, right? And then you get some really good high quality food. And interestingly enough, you don't even need fertilizer and you don't need pesticides. So my son, as I started this, he put this regenerative micro farm in his front yard, actually took out part of his driveway to extend it further. And basically I was asking him about it, and he said, I said, well, don't you need to kill the weeds or pull the weeds or something like that? He said, we don't have any weeds. I said, really? He said, yeah. I said, when you plant these plants in the right connection to each other, it's not like it's all corn, right? Or it's all some sunflowers. They plant the plants in a way that they complement each other. Something's putting nitrogen in, something's taking nitrogen out, something's doing this, something phosphorus, different things. And all of a sudden, the soil is staying healthy. The worms come in and all these stuff. He said, if you take a trowel and put it in and turn it up, it's just full of life in there, right? The soil is so rich in his front yard. And when you have that, all those bugs and everything, they eat all the weed seeds, right? That would form a weed. So they don't have weeds, right? Because the soil is healthy, right? And so they've been eating these little peaches and different berries and this stuff, and the kids are loving it, right? They're out there picking this stuff, and it's, they're tasting,
That's cool.
None of us can, we can remember, but it's really hard to get a hold of like a great tasting peach or a great tasting strawberry. Well, they've got those growing in their front yard, right? So anyway, I think the real answer here is to do this regenerative farming, because it gets us away from all the crap that we don't want and gives us what we do want. So
in the meantime, though, for people that go to the grocery store and they get the organic product or they get the regular product, what are the kinds of things you do to help clean those fruits and vegetables?
Yeah, well, you can wash them, of course. You can use Dawn detergent. It's very strong surfactant. It'll actually remove all that stuff. So if you want to put a little bit in a bowl and soak your berries in there and rinse it off, you should be good to go. It'll take off almost everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then what are the kinds of things that you are doing to help detox from the pesticides? You say you get clients all the time that they have pesticides and all of that. So what are the kinds of things that you're recommending generally?
Yeah, it's
for people to
basically,
be doing?
it's first try to get the stuff from coming in, right? That's always going to be number one. And then the body has the ability to detox. If you're putting it in faster than you're taking it out, you'll never make progress. But apart from that, things like saunas we use, and then just doing a regular gut detox, a lot of the stuff will come out through the gut. But those are the main ways that we use it for those kinds of things. So, yeah.
This episode of the Gladden Longevity Podcast is brought to you by the new molecular hydrogen formulas of Chill and Energy.
Yeah, Chill and Energy were a couple of things that I learned about through NES Health. And we discovered that when you combine their infoceutical with hydrogen, you actually get an expanded effect from what you would just using it by itself. So we were very excited to work through the ability to actually infuse, if you will, or imprint the hydrogen tablet with the information related to chill and to energy.
You can hear more about the physics of how this formulation came about if you go to the interview that we did with Harry Massey on episode 191.
When we were trying this in the office, we gave it to some willing clients and also willing staff, and we heard repeatedly how much the chill actually worked for them. If they were kind of anxious or feeling upset about something, if they dropped the hydrogen in the water and let it dissolve and drank it, not only did they get the benefits of hydrogen, which is kind of energizing in a way of making your brain kind of wake back up, but they also felt very calm and relaxed. And so we were very excited to bring it forward. And when we started using H2 Energy and combining those two together, we found a really nice energy boost before we went to go work out or do a mountain bike ride or go for a run or any of these things. And so this is the first two of a family of hydrogen products, I'll say augmented or advanced hydrogen products that we're bringing forward. So these are really the most advanced hydrogen products, I think, on the planet.
I love taking an H2 chill right before I hop in the sauna and an H2 energy either before I do a podcast with you or afterwards because my brain is pretty tired. Get 10% off your order of H2 chill and H2 energy when you use the code podcast10 at gladdenlongevitysshop.com. That's podcast10 at checkout when you visit gladdenlongevitysshop.com.
Gladden Longevity Molecular H2, Chill and Energy. It's an upgrade to your hydrogen toolkit.
Well, in addition to Food Safety Awareness Month, it is Healthy Aging Month. And since you are 27 and this is the Gladden Longevity Podcast, let's talk about healthy aging.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like healthy aging. I think it's misconstrued. I think the intent is very, very good, but I think they've misconstrued the words. It's not about healthy aging. It's simply about living young for a lifetime, and therefore you are healthy. And chronological age is no longer connected to biological age. I think it's really what we're going for is living young for a lifetime. That's the real ticket. Because if you have this moniker of healthy aging, well, it's like, oh, I guess aging is inevitable, and I wonder how healthy I can be while I'm going downhill, right? That's kind of the implication. that doesn't resonate with me. So.
Well, there are some articles here like, let this 74-year-old grandma be your inspiration for healthy aging. And then, what is glutathione, the newest age reversal trend, and Gwyneth Paltrow's fountain of youth? I don't know about newest. I've been known about glutathione for quite a while.
It's been around for a minute, right? So, but I think what happens is, a research paper comes out on something, a mouse trial comes out on something, right? Alpha ketoglutarate is one, taurine's another one, L-ergothione's another one, glutathione's another one. They're, and we use them all, right? So don't get me wrong, they're all great. We use them all, but it's not the idea that if you just get your glutathione levels up, everything's going to be hunky-dory, right? That's not how it works either.
It's a mosaic. It's your mosaic of aging.
Yeah. That being said, I do think that we are on the cusp of cracking the code on aging. I really think it'll be solved in 3 to 5 years.
Really? Talk about that, because you just spoke at RadFest, and it's been a couple months since we've talked to the audience. What are some new things that you're learning that have you this excited?
Yeah, I think aging is really going to be cracked. I think part of it is one of the things is that information in the longevity space is doubling every 3 months. So when you think about that, that's a massive increase, right?
Wow.
Doubling every 3 months, right?
Yeah.
And then the other thing is, the AI is progressing so much more quickly. I don't know if you've been doing much with AI, but I mean, O1, Claude 3.5. I mean, we've been deep on the AI piece for a long time. And when you start to see what the generative AIs can do, and then that it's really not, I don't think we're that far away from AGI, right? Which is basically general intelligence, right? Artificial general intelligence. And then you get to artificial superintelligence, ASI. And then you get to bringing in quantum computing, which is basically computing power that really works well at optimization questions. So you start to move this together, and holy cow, I think we're really going to crack the code in 3 to 5 years. So I think it's super exciting. I think you'll actually be able to live as long as you want to, as healthy as you want to. And I don't think it's about healthy aging. I think it's about literally living young for a lifetime. So I think that's super, super fun.
Yeah.
And let me just say this. There's a couple other things out there where there was an article published by David Sinclair at July of 2023 looking at small molecules to reverse the age of a cell. They were looking at the epigenetic age of a cell.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, it turns out that some of those molecules overlap with on some of the cancer therapy in the alternative space. Alternative cancer therapy molecules overlap with those. So some of the people that are treating cancer with those alternative molecules are noticing that their patients are not only getting over the cancer, but they're actually getting younger, right? So we're in connection with them, wanting to go down this pathway. Let's collaborate on this because super interesting stuff.
Yeah.
And then there's another physician that we've known for probably over 3.5, 4 years maybe, who introduced me to this paper where it talks about the central aging clock, which is in the hypothalamus, the third ventricle of the hypothalamus in the brain, these stem cells that stop making or producing exosomes, right, which are signaling molecules that keep the body young. And he was showing, reversal of aging. If you take a mouse and you basically knock off those stem cells, the mouse gets old very, very quickly. If you take an older mouse and replace those stem cells, they get young very quickly, right? So it's kind of like a central aging clock. So the point is that in the longevity space, we've been trying to imagine, like Mount Fuji. I've never seen Mount Fuji exactly, but I know it's this volcano over in Japan, and it's kind of got this circular base, right? And snow on top. And in the aging space, what we've been doing is trying to rim the perimeter, right, of that volcano. So we're coming at it from literally 1,000 different angles, right? Like glutathione, L-glutathione, right? Ozone. I mean, all these different things. We're coming at it from 1,000 different angles. And I think if we can get to a point where we really start to see what are some of the real, not only the hallmarks of aging, but what are the central initiating drivers, and we sort of go there and cut off the head of the cobra at that point, and then clean up the pieces that need cleaning up. You see, I think the strategy is going to change. We're not going to try to solve every phenotypic expression of aging, which is every kind of visual manifestation of aging. We're basically going to go after the central processes and do it that way. I think that's going to be super exciting. So,
one of the other articles on here is Nutrition and Healthy Aging, the role of protein quality in combating muscle loss. What are your thoughts about that, Dr. Gladden?
Yeah, I think protein quality is a big deal.
And I'd say, I would assume you would also say protein amount, that we're generally not getting enough protein to maintain our muscle mass.
Well, it's a good question. If you have poor quality protein, you need a bigger amount, right? Yeah. If you have a high quality protein, you need less of it. So we think the Perfect Aminos, and I have no financial interest in this company, but we think Perfect Aminos has really done a great job of designing these essential amino acids in this proprietary configuration that they have, so that all those amino acids basically go into building muscle, right? So high protein diets are associated with shorter life expectancy.
Yeah.
Right. Because you're activating mTOR all the time. So we're really big fans of Perfect Aminos as a way to get high quality protein building in your body, rather than relying on pure biological proteins. That being said, egg whites are the best biological protein. About 49% of that protein goes into building protein. The rest of the protein goes into carbohydrates. And there's an oddball here, which is collagen. Collagen is kind of a crappy protein, right? I mean, the amino acid composition is not particularly great, right? Yeah. So it's not like a really great protein. But collagen and the collagen peptides actually stimulate, like a peptide would, collagen formation.
Yeah.
So getting collagen in addition to the Perfect Aminos could be kind of a great way to go. So.
All right, the final month that September is Self-Care Awareness Month. Dr. Gladden, what are some of the things that you are doing for self-care, to rest, to recharge? I guess first define self-care, and then what are you doing for self-care?
Well, I think the question is, what's the point of self-care? What are you trying to accomplish with self-care, right? I think one answer to that is to rest, right? To simply pull back, disengage, not be answering emails and generating new ideas and things like that, but to just simply go back and, read a book, or, meditate, or listen to some music, or, talk to some friends, or go have dinner and laugh, just
get sunshine out on the back porch and just admire nature.
Exactly. Just hang out, basically. And kind of, sit in that sort of joyous place of gratitude and just, love for being here on the planet, right? I think that's super rejuvenating. I think in addition to that, self-care ultimately is about also optimizing your nervous system. Mm-hmm. So I think self-care can be going for a mountain bike ride, or playing a new golf course you've never played before, or hiking a new trail, or learning to fly fish if you've never done it before. Self-care can also be fun and engaging, and it's not work at all. It's kind of happening passively, but you're building neurological connections that you didn't have before, right? You're augmenting your neuroplasticity, and you're enabling your muscles and your balance and all these other things to work better. So it's a little bit about having fun and kind of stretching yourself at the same time, but not in a work sort of way, just kind of in a fun way. So, yeah, I think that's self-care to me. Well, the third element of it is really the psychospiritual, which is meditation and getting in connection with consciousness and love and, the meaning of life and all the really big questions that are so nurturing when you start to unravel those. So, yeah.
Very cool. All right, Dr. Gladden, thanks for another month of Q&A. What's on your plate coming up?
Well, we're adding new technologies here fairly quickly. So I'll keep people apprised of that as it happens. New diagnostics, new technologies, new cancer detection, testing. Many new things are coming. It's never slow here. I think the other thing is I'm doing more speaking. I'll be in California speaking this weekend. I'll be in Denver the next weekend, actually, if you're around.
Yeah.
Giving a talk.
Where are you giving a talk at?
The one in California is at a conference being put on by a medical testing company where they're aggregating a bunch of longevity people.
Yeah.
And the one in Denver is going to be called a Zenergy. It's basically sort of Zen and energy medicine kind of conference.
Yeah.
So I think that'll be cool. Yeah.
Very cool.
That'll be good.
All right, listeners, we didn't get any questions this month. So if you have a question for Dr. Gladden, be sure to email us, podcast@gladdenlongevity.com, podcast@gladdenlongevity.com. Dr. Gladden, thank you. And hopefully your knee heals up and you're
it will.
back.
It will.
100%.
I think I might need a little reconstruction, but it's okay. I'll be back. I want to snowboard.
All right.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Gladden Longevity Podcast. If you would like more information on what we've discussed or other topics, please reference the show notes or go to GladdenLongevityPodcast.com. You can also find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter by searching Gladden Longevity. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe to get future episodes delivered to you and share our podcast or this episode with someone in your life that you may find benefit. Thank you for listening. We'll be back next week with another exciting episode. The Gladden Longevity Podcast is provided for informational purposes only. It does not constitute medical advice. This content is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of a physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. The use of any information and materials linked to this podcast is at the listener's own risk.